everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a somewhat retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Spaz.
And my name's Rich.
We're firmly in holiday mode this week, so we're going to come at you with a quick and breezy pod with no reviews. I will have just been to the Isle of Man, and I'm back now.
Well done.
Yeah, no, you ever been to the Isle of Man before?
No.
The 3 legs on the old flag, bit weird, I won't lie.
Each their own, innit?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily describe it as an aesthetically pleasing flag. I can say that now I've been, I won't get kicked out.
I was going to say they're going to buy you entry.
But yeah, for a breezy pod with no reviews, I was thinking about this. I don't know why, because I'm weird. Thinking about how much do I like looking at my video game consoles on my shelves, and what I like to have out, and yeah, I was just thinking about over a lifetime of gaming. What do you like to ogle? What is the most aesthetically pleasing video game console that you have seen? And that set me off thinking, well, we can't just do it like, perfectly normal and go, oh yeah, well, it's this, end of conversation. I'd like to have a little bit of a spin on that. So I set you a task, and myself, to name our top 3 most aesthetically pleasing consoles each. Come up with a wild card, and I guess given a reason why it would be a wild card, and a complete uggo. One that, that absolutely, it might not be necessarily the ugliest console to everybody, but something that you really feel quite violently sick looking at on most evenings. So yeah, that's what I thought we'd go with. We might have some crossover, we never know. I mean, it might happen. But we know, because we didn't discuss it prior to this. But yeah, in a swift, brief half-an-hour podcast, tell me, Rich.
Yep.
Should we go? Have you got an order to your top 3 aesthetically pleasing consoles?
Don't, but I could hurriedly come up with one if I needed to.
I'm going to hurry you into one then.
Yeah, all right.
And then let's go with our top 3 most aesthetically pleasing consoles. Give me your third.
My third most aesthetically pleasing. Right. In that case, he says picking between 2 of them, almost at random, but not quite. Please hold, caller. Yeah, all right. I am gonna go with the Atari 2600.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Purely because, find me another console that is as evocative of the era it was made in.
Yeah.
You've got to admit, it is distinct as anything, and you could easily call it ugly. You could, but I think that there is just something so I'd hesitate to say iconic, because we overuse that word anyway, I think, but there is something about it that I genuinely think it's the wood grain paneling.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that is basically what it boils down to.
Which is fair enough. I mean, the console itself looks a hell of a lot better than the games that are on the console itself.
Yeah,
so
but I've got a bit of a soft spot for the big old chunky cartridges.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, and granted, the way they stick out are perhaps not quite as ergonomic's not quite the right word, but you know what I mean.
They don't hide them away, do they?
Yeah. But I think it's just if you could look at it and go, I bet that's from the late 70s or the early 80s.
Yeah, that's true.
You would be 100% correct, and I kind of love it for that.
Yeah.
I guess the Intellivision is kind of nearly there, but I can't be doing that weird dial pad thing. So yeah, I went with the Atari.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's a really, really strong choice. I'm going to go for one that I've never owned. Have you ever owned an Atari 2600?
No.
Yeah, I'm going to go for one that I've owned a variant of this console, but I've not owned this actual version. So, in number 3 for me, a translucent Game Boy Color.
Oh, specifically translucent.
Yeah,
nice.
I think that
that translucent electronics brings back childhood memories, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah, I don't know what the obsession was necessarily in the maybe the whole of the 90s into the early 2000s, but I mean, you can see now from the Xbox, be it the 25th anniversary version being brought back as a translucent version. That there's something. I didn't ever have a Game Boy Color. I had a Game Boy Pocket, and then when I saw a Game Boy Color in general, like like the aqua blue ones. I think
had
they
a
were.
lime green one.
Yeah. I wasn't necessarily in love necessarily with the colours of those ones, but as soon as I saw a translucent one, my word, that isn't it just so beautiful with it's being able to see the electronics whirring away in sort of, well, not whirring away necessarily, but so working away in the background. Yeah, and being a Sega and PlayStation kid, and then thinking, no, this is what I would love to have in my pocket. That is, it just oozes like amazing style. That is in, and it makes me for whatever reason that is the Nintendo console, being a handheld as well, that I would want to own. And also, I mean, we're talking about like the aesthetics purely here. That is in, it does a lot of things. Obviously, as a Game Boy Color, you can, backward compatible and things like that. But just in general, I follow a guy on Instagram, and they will occasionally just do a reel with one. And yeah, it's like the sort of off purple tint of the translucent as well. It's almost just that it has like a nice shimmer to it as well. And I think when you turn the screen on, and certainly a screen that's had work done on it, if you will, that is in now and made it look absolutely incredible, set versus that backdrop. Love it. Absolutely love it. We're not actually answering anything in here that in terms of, we're not saying these are everybody's ever, and also giving any real fucking reason. It's almost a gut feel for me.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, that's exactly how I wrote this list originally. I didn't think about it too much. I just wrote it, and I might be editing it on the fly as we go.
Fair enough.
I mean, there was one bit that I wrote and have hurriedly crossed out because I thought something else that I was going to mention, but we'll come to that later.
Cool.
But for my next one, funnily enough, for a lot of the reasons that you were just talking about, I was so close to putting the Glacier Blue Game Boy Advance in this slot.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, like the translucent, the blue tint.
You love a Game Boy
I've got
Advance.
mine. Yeah, I love the shape of it. I think I like a really distinctive silhouette, I think is what it is. Which brings me to my actual choice, because another one that I nearly put in here was the N64. Because, I mean, that's distinct. You've got it again, like the Atari, it is distinct. Yeah. However, I've given it to the Analog 3D.
Okay.
Because if you're talking about like taking that kind of classic, I say classic, I'm probably the only fucker that actually likes it, look of an N64, but giving it a modern update and just making it that little bit sleeker, that little bit slimmer, that just, it looks proper premium.
Does it look a bit like a race car to me? Like, isn't shape wise,
a little bit. But that is, funnily enough, another point I will be making about something else quite soon. But yeah, like there's a little hint of that kind of the sweep of it. You know, you could imagine it being, draped in velvet on like a car show forecourt thing or whatever. On a little spinny plinth that someone has to unveil. Yeah. What the hell am I talking about?
But, I was nodding, smiling.
Car shows we all go to. But yeah, like the Analog 3D, like I think is a really classy update. I like a lot of Analog's stuff anyway. I like how it looks. I'm not a huge fan of their update on the Mega Drive look, but like their snares and stuff like that, I quite like. I am still dangerously close to selling a bunch of stuff to try and get their like TurboGrafx one. I haven't yet. I don't know if I will, but there is a part of me that's like, but I could, because I think that is gorgeous as well. But the Analog 3D got the win for one reason and one reason alone, and that is, the 4 controller ports on the N64. Yeah. This has 4 ports as well, even though, it's got Bluetooth. It doesn't need all 4, but they put them on anyway, which tick. Yeah. But also, each of them has like a little LED on the front to show when it's in use. When you're updating the firmware, they are the progress bar for when it's going through, cool. So that they'll light up progressively as it goes through, which I think is such a nice touch. Yeah. That's such a clever little quirk of the design that, I just love it. Yeah,
brilliant, cool. Should we? I'm gonna do my next one, then we'll switch it out and we'll go to like the wild card and the ugly one before we reveal our most aesthetically pleasing.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go for it is a console I do have out and about at home, but again I've gone for a certain variant. So the PS3 Slim, Scarlet Red Edition.
Ooh.
I don't think a PS3 isn't necessarily the original version aesthetically pleasing. When I looked at my PS3 Slim the other day, I think it looks fantastic. Like, is in black. Like, is in the Scarlet Red Edition. It's just sexy. It is wonderful. The deep red color on that and the curves that they managed to put onto that PS3 Slim. And you know, I don't know if people will look it up after this or not, that in terms of any of these consoles we're talking about, but I certainly would implore people to have a look at it and just sort of think that it looks so classy. It's almost like when Palpatine turns up with his red guards, and it's like you look at their helmets and you kind of go, they're different and they're fucking cool.
Wow, they're sexy.
Yeah. But just like, the curves on that machine are absolutely fantastic. And I think that for a console that wasn't necessarily well loved because of the price, etc., and everybody thought Sony had dropped the ball and everybody kind of went Xbox 360. Xbox 360's fun to play. I don't like looking at them necessarily. PS3's slim version specifically, like, you know, not the super slim that with the weird opening fucking grill it has, and that's I don't know how they went from the chunky PS3, which was not great to look at, to the super sexy slim, and then went to a horrible looking. I think it's called a super slim or whatever it is. Like, is in the one that's like 12 gigs or whatever, and it was like the cheap one. I was like, oh good lord, like please don't like sully the memory of the slim. But yeah, I love it. I think it's really cool, and that's the kind of thing where I'm not a massive car person, but I do enjoy a racing car or a car with a great form factor, and I do believe that specific console has a great form factor coupled with that variant. The color is just on point, brilliant.
Nice. I've already forgotten what order I had to do this. Am I doing the ugly one?
You're going to do either the wild card. Do the wild card.
Right.
Do the wild card.
Okay. So wild card, and I'm still not entirely sure about this.
Well, that's why it's a wild card.
The Dreamcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, fair enough.
I kind of like it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think I kind of like the catalog on it more than I like the console. I think is it too much like a toy?
I think a lot of people like the Dreamcast. I
kind of like how it looks, but I can't like.
I think that's why you got its ass kicked, because it does look like a bit like. It wasn't just that, but in my head, I'm always like, I never really took the Dreamcast seriously. And some of that is the looks of it.
That's the thing. Like you kind of look at it and it's like, does that console actually have much grunt to it, or like, does it mean business, or whatever? And I'm like, that's not usually a thought process that I entertain, and yet I find myself kind of going down that route with the Dreamcast. But at the same time, I've been staring at it for 10 minutes. I've been staring at it long enough to think, these strange thoughts and all that. So yeah, like I've given it to the Dreamcast, but I'm still not entirely sure why.
No, and that's fine. That's why it's a wild card.
It's probably the wildest of wild cards I can come up with. Really.
That's okay. It's it's the love of your life that you have from school that you kind of like. I'm infatuated with you, but I don't understand necessarily that isn't what's going on there.
Yeah. I mean, it's distinct, I guess. Yeah. At the same time, but like, what I was just saying about distinctive silhouettes and stuff like that. It's a box. It doesn't really have one, does it? So yeah.
Look, we love what we love. So we're gonna say Sega. I'm gonna go for a Sega Game Gear.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I love the chunk on a Sega Game Gear. Like it just feels like you can really get your hands around it, and it looks that way too. And there's so much body to it and so little screen. Like,
that is a console with love handles, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, and I don't know. It feels like just. I'm trying to struggle to find things to sort of describe these consoles. It feels just like a set of rolling hills. I don't know, is it in a way? I don't really know how that is the sort of way to put it, but yeah, it feels like a really wide vista for a handheld console, and
at the same time doesn't give you a screen for it. It's a big canvas and just doodled in the middle.
It just takes all your battery life, and it's just like, I imagine that carrying it round, you kind of like it would hug you back. It would hug you back a Game Gear. And whilst people, you would kind of, if you sit and look at it in the cold light of day, you wouldn't say it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. But yeah, it has presence. Is what I feel.
When it's entered the room.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, apart from your Game Gear Micro, which is the opposite, which probably has the same screen size. If I'm going to be honest,
it's not far off
as the original. But even even when you brought that out that time on the podcast, I was still impressed by that, and I was like, and I enjoyed the form factor of seeing a mini Game Gear. I was like,
why they couldn't have just made a mini that was still like a kind of normalish, like about a phone size would have been bang on. Load it up with, I don't know, 20 games. Would have sold like hotcakes, I'll tell you.
I love it. Right, so
the ugly ones.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're not saying this is the ugliest console, but this is something that I just thought. Well, actually, I look at one every day and kind of go.
It's a personal taste, isn't it? Yeah. I've already put the Atari 2600 on a pedestal, but I mean, case in point, like I originally wrote the Saturn in here.
Interesting. I was
because
just thinking,
I love the Saturn. I do, and I'm looking at my Saturn saying, "I love you, Saturn." But like, my God, it is functional at best, right?
Like, it looks like it's been flattened.
It is not a pretty design. And then, a bunch of them, at least, in the UK, would have been like black, which is maybe a bit of an improvement.
I'm moving over towards it. I'm trying to.
Japan had like a grey version, which I think is even worse. I think making it grey is not a good idea. However, I have scrubbed that out because I did remember the fat PS3.
Yeah, which is so funny. I do think the fat PS3 is pretty awful.
I think it might be my ugliest console. It's that big old curvy look that it kind of goes the opposite way to what I was just saying about the Dreamcast and the Saturn, which are basically just boxes, but like too far the other way.
Yeah.
PS5 again, very nearly got in this.
It's
slot.
Bad, isn't it? It is bad. Some people think it's good. It is awful. I hate looking at my PS5.
Like I understand what they were going for with the kind of V shape and all that kind of stuff. They're very clever. We got it. But like at the same time, like it works better as a spaceship in Astrobot than it does as a thing that sits under my telly, because my telly is a functional rectangle. Like the thing sat underneath it does not need to look like a spaceship.
The little plastic clips that come with it to be like, oh, you can lay it down and stuff, and then just like, what? It's just like
but like the big PS3. See all of my points about the PS5 and looking like a spaceship, but just make it the most boring spaceship you've ever seen in your entire life. And that's where you are.
And I totally agree. And I guess that you might sort of think, well, how have you got to the PS3 Slim being one of the better ones? But the difference they have done with the form factor between those two things, somehow, by losing loads of space off it and stuff and taking a PS2 out the middle of it, it just magically transformed it to something that was just so much more to me. It just shows you that you can have the same console and just different variants of it, and it's different for everybody, and you might not, you won't feel the same way, obviously, but at the same time, just I feel the same way about the PS3. Like fat, I'm like, oh my God, like when I first bought one and got it out of the box, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever owned, but it looks like shit. Like,
I'll tell you what as well just came to mind, was the fat PS3 also the one that had like the PlayStation 3 written across the front in the same font as the Spider-Man movies poster or something like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously that is on the side of the spines, and yes, that was like their branding for a while. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was on the front of it. I think it was. It's like the flap that you lift up to connect. I can't remember what you put in there now. That is in the SD cards or whatever and stuff. There's like a horrible flap, and that I was like, I mean, I can totally see why, and I'd sort of bagged on the Xbox 360 before, and only mocking it a little bit, but like it's in, I genuinely don't like it necessarily to look at, but it looks better than the original PS3, and it doesn't have like what feels like a cheap plastic flap on the front of it either. Do you know what I mean? It's just so, yeah.
I wonder how many of them snapped off over the years.
Now the R2D2 Xbox 360, as in now we're talking. So I've gone for the same era. A lot of mine are quite recent, just because I feel certain ways about them. I've gone for the Wii. The Wii, whilst it's not necessarily doing anything wrong, it's all flaps. and
Yeah.
wires, and I'm taking into account this. You know, you've got the sensor bar, for example, and if you have to set up a Wii, which I haven't got a Wii set up in my house right now, it just as a whole package is horrendous to have. And you know, you open the top flap, and then you for your GameCube controllers and stuff, and that'll just feels like. I mean, obviously they break off, so you know that's not great as a use, and it also just looks terrible when you have that open. You open a front flap to kind of press like the sync button, for example, and it just and the blue glow that emanates from it and stuff just feels sadistic. It doesn't that isn't that, you know, like I just I could never love a Wii. I can never look loving at a Wii. It does make me feel like I like having my Wii and having lots of Wii games out and playing on the Wii. Seeing it makes me upset. Like it really does. That is in, you know, I don't know what it is, but it repulses me.
Yeah. I get that.
You know, and then you tack on, say you added on the controllers, for example, like as in just like as in those fucking weird rubber,
distinctive, but not the right kind of distinctive.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go for again. Like, this is one of those stupid things where like the most aesthetically pleasing console of your life, or that you know of. I mean, you know, I could probably change my opinion, you know, in the next 3 minutes. Like, but this is one I wrote down. So
yeah. So I have perhaps unpopularly gone for the Mega Drive 2.
Good.
Because I'm a basic bitch.
No, you talk to the right audience.
Yeah, but like. Most people would. I can imagine they would go for a Mega Drive 1 if they were going to go for one of them. It was my first love. Yeah. It was the first console I had. I still think she's gorgeous. You know, black and red can never go wrong.
She's a beauty.
And you know, we were saying about sports cars. Like, there's just something about. I was looking at it the other day. I was like, it kind of reminds me of like the '90s sports cars.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like that weird middle ground between boxy and curvy, where they haven't quite decided which way they're going to go.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going to be both. And like. Yeah, it for what we were saying about, you know, other Sega consoles just being like weirdly functional, or other things like the Wii being like a bit too radical. Yeah. Like this seems to fit in a kind of happy middle ground where it's got just the right number of curves and just the right number of angles, and it doesn't take up too much space, and is easy to set up, and not too many wires compared to the Wii or anything. And yeah, like I just think it does a lot right.
Yeah, the step on from the original Mega Drive with the switch with the you know, the slider, and those weird white buttons, to the Mega Drive with the red buttons. That is in Mega Drive 2. Sorry, even like massive difference. That is in, you know, just these little things that make a huge difference. And same as you, it was my first console that I loved, and I was always very proud of having that sat out on my desk in my bedroom. Like, as in, you know, whenever my friends came around, I'd be like, take a look at my Mega Drive.
I mean, don't quote me on this, but I have a feeling that like in different regions they might have had like slightly different coloured buttons or something like that. I have a feeling I've seen one with like blue buttons or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So at least in PAL regions, at least they had red buttons, which matches the red LED on the front quite nicely, and all that. And Gets the nod from me.
How awful they must have felt about being so wrong about that. Red buttons. So I've gone for a variant, but as in the right colour though. I've gone for the PS2 Slim.
Really?
Yes. Now I think that might
aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, that might sound really controversial. Now I think the PS2 itself, some people would say that it presents sort of, I guess, power, and it's boxy, but it looks like a skyscraper, you know, and it oozes that sort of PlayStation, like, I guess it's almost like the dominance of what a PlayStation had put across over how many years and stuff. Like, as in back in the day, like the PS2, it's just like, you know, but I found it a bit too boxy. Now the PS2 Slim, the small version. It sounds stupid, but it's like a cute version, which is obviously of the PS2, but it still holds all of the same little detailing that you get on the PlayStation 2, like sort of the ridges you get down the front of it. And if you put that on a little black stand and stand that up, and it looks like, and you've still got a really great sort of, you know, version of it now, and the black color on that, I feel like I'm falling into a black hole of just joy. That is, you know, and even the, I guess, the slots for the controls at the front as well, just sort of like having that little sort of like flap over the front of it and stuff. It just feels like everything's been sort of sized down to the point where you kind of still keep all the coolness of a console, but they're hiding everything else. It's just like it's almost taken down to its most efficient form and still looking brilliant to me. But I know a lot of people don't feel that way.
No, I don't.
No, I know.
I think a PS2 is really boring.
Yeah,
like it bores me.
Yeah, I think that about the big version almost in a way, and I think if I shrink it down, and like I don't know what it is about it, makes me go.
Yeah, even shrunk down. Yeah. I just think it's a bit of a boring design.
Yeah.
But then I put the Atari 2600 on a pedestal, so it's probably not my finest hour, if we're talking honestly.
With your pipe and slippers on from the 70s. I mean, the thing is that as well, like, it is weird, because if you kind of went onto the internet and tried to look up what the most aesthetic... Everyone has different things.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And I do genuinely think the best thing to do is what me and you have done, is just look at it on your shelf and go, yeah, all right, yeah. It's a lot easier, especially when you've got it in front of you. You know, and... Also, how much time did I really spend preparing and thinking about this podcast?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think, like, as soon as the sort of question came in and you said about doing this, I was like, well, I'm not going to overthink it. It's going to be gut instinct, like whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, and that's probably what mine were, really. So, you know, you've made me really think about that now. But then
I mean, there'll be something that comes to me in the middle of the night. I'll wake up in a cold sweat and be like, oh, how did I not mention that? Damn it.
Oh, well, that was really fun. Just, you know, something different from our usual reviews and things. So, you know.
It's also an easy one for people to chime in with their thoughts.
It is, absolutely, yes. Yeah, thank you very much for doing that. We don't really do much, you know, asking of, you know, thoughts and stuff, but I might try and even squeeze out a question on Spotify.
Anyone
and
could do
Instagram,
this list.
A poll, even, you know, like all the cool people do. You know, what is your most aesthetically pleasing console? What is your wild card potentially? And what would be an ugly console as well? So yeah, we're really good to get some interaction actually. Well, you know, we kind of
not around to interact with you.
That's really fucking work. Brilliant. Hey, there we go. Right, I'm off to hug a Game Gear.
Nice.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
And here I am, being one of those cool people I just spoke about, putting a poll out / question out on Instagram to speak to people we regularly interact with, but we've never really done anything like this before on the podcast, 170 whatever episodes in. I am currently sat in the Isle of Man, chilling out, and yeah, it's all timey-wimey bullshit, weirdly. And yeah, so I thought I'd just read out some of the opinions of people on what the most aesthetically pleasing video game console of all time might well be. There are many different opinions on this, and I thought it was really interesting because actually we touched on quite a few of these on the podcast, and some of them were way closer to the bone than I expected them to be. So let's start with at Steelbook Hub, who says the silver PS2 bundle. Said it was I'm going to start speaking again. Think nothing could ever get better than that, and to be honest, nothing has ever come close, which is, you know, pretty lofty praise. We've got from The Real Tasty Retro Gaming. My two would be the GameCube or the PS Vita that look just right. I couldn't point out an area to improve on them. Fair enough. First GameCube swellings, and they will continue soon. From at Retro Game Den. Oh, that's an easy one. It's the original Master System, which is a really interesting choice. A very angular system. He says, there's something about those clean lines and angles that perfectly capture the retro-futuristic feels of the 80s consoles for me. Love it. That seems completely fair. He also said that the PSP was pretty good too. Game Boys podcast. I've always loved anything transparent. Me too, as you can tell by one of mine. So I said the transparent Game Boy, and funnily enough, Game Boys podcast talk about transparent as well. So I think they'll probably enjoy that transparent Game Boy colour answer that I gave previously. At Viva La Hazy Games, OG PS2. Discussion over. It was sleek and beautiful. Well, you heard just before this, I said about the slim PS2 Black, and Rich poo-pooed the PS2. So it'll be funny to see what he has to say about this, because that's the second vote for a PS2 so far. Where's the save point? Even though I'm more of a PS2 person, I've always felt that the GameCube is a fantastic looking console, compact and sleek. And I think that's a very fair point. I think we touched on that in the podcast as well. So the GameCube, again, a lot of love, but also the PS2 as well. I wonder if it feels like when Rich was speaking about on the podcast, the Mega Drive 2 being his first love, I feel like even though that might not have been people's first consoles, the PS2, GameCube, and what I'm about to speak about in a minute, the Dreamcast era seemed to be where people's love lie the most. As at Gary Gill Gaming tells us, console-wise, it's got to be the PlayStation, but the Dreamcast is my go-to at the moment. At the Lynx Cader, well, I mean, he was just taking the piss, really. He says, damn, it's going to be a whole episode about Jaguar with the CD and Atari Lynx 1 and 2. I think that is probably just pulling my leg a little bit because they look a little bit like shit. The Atari Lynx 2, though, I will hear that as a legitimate thing. The Jaguar with CD, that's a real problem for me. We veer now into handheld territory, which I spoke about with the Game Boy Transparent. We've had some PS Vita feedback here, some PSP feedback here. Here's some other handheld feedback from at the Apologetic Nerd. If we're including handhelds, then I reckon the DS Lite should be in the running. Sheared all the edges of the DS, but kept the functionality, which I think is really fair. And then I spoke about how lumpy the DS looked, how bumpy and lumpy, a little bit like what I spoke about with the Game Gear. And then, rightly so, at the Apologetic Nerd said, innovation comes at a lumpy price, which is a great sentence. Then we had a little bit of a spooky one, which actually, when we think about how much I interact with at SteveCat91 on Instagram and a close friend of the podcast, and he has his own podcast at Lost Spark podcast. He responded, I've never really had one, but the slim PS3 always looked really nice to me. Not the awful one with the sliding cover, the other one, which is really weird because obviously that's something that I very specifically said on the podcast. Mine was a Scarlet Red edition of the slim PS3, but definitely not the sliding cover one, which looks like shit. And then finally, at Bull Moose Gaming, here's a bold take. It's the Dreamcast, and specifically because the controller, again, something else that we spoke about on the podcast, that we weren't saying it was all about the controller, but again, another shout for the Dreamcast. So very strong themes there from everybody to say that actually the PS2, the Dreamcast, and the GameCube era, Xbox clearly losing out there for was a time that actually people really, really enjoyed looking at the video game consoles. So it just takes all sorts, really. I much prefer the slim PS2, but some people like that Tower of Power, so Tower of Dominance from Sony, and some people love the sleek, compact GameCube. Really appreciate all your feedback, guys. We'll do that again soon, hopefully on the podcast. And I would have ranked them all with numbers, with arbitrary scores, but I didn't want to piss too many people off. I think everybody's feedback was quite legitimate this time, apart from at the Lynx Cader, who was just having me off big time. Anyway, we'll speak to you again next week on the podcast. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.